there.
Yeah.
Now you want that mic.
Yeah, if this mic works, that would be nice. What do we see about testing the quality of the screen?
You can do it.
Yeah, we can do it if you receive it. All right, Rotary Lagrange. Rotary Lagrange 2022.
That's the bad.
Yeah, if we can, if it's the same screen.
Is it?
Is it working? All right, can we check audio? Test 1, 2, 3. We're working. Oh, we're good. Okay. We're good. We've got good audio. We've got good video. All right, cool.
We had to learn how to fiddle with this exact microphone for the program.
Yeah, the difference in the audio quality.
Yeah.
This has a much better audio quality. It's got a lot more.
Okay, good. Very good. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Look at it.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, a little bit.
Thank you.
Carol, what's going on? Doing well, man. How you
Yes. I thought you were out of town.
Sometimes we got three versions out there. Sometimes we only one. They should make it, because I would love to be able to look somewhere and leave like the other eight. I will,
Me too. You know, Carrie.
What's going on? You all right? Doing well. Hey, buddy.
Okay, I will.
I have no idea, so I don't know where they got me. I was going to look and see if Jason had a space, but no, I mean, if you want to, wherever you want to sit, it's good. Hey, Curtis. How are you? A little bit, yeah. I got to run next week, or I guess.
So I slept there. I don't know if you got the city council.
No, I don't. Are you a new person? Okay. I didn't know.
What's up, Jake?
Hey, what's up, man? How are you? All right. She paid. I'll send her there.
I watched it. I didn't see her other than when she did the interview. So she was going for a little bit. When she finally showed up in the office, I'm like, did you walk? You decided you didn't want me to come? Maybe that's why you were.
No, she told me all good things.
I'm not on wood.
That's right.
Welcome to the Rotary Club of LaGrange. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation today given by Raylene Carter.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank you for our many blessings. We thank you for the food we have been served today to nourish our bodies. We thank you that in the midst of sadness, crisis, environmental problems, health challenges, and other issues faced by us, you still love us and watch over us. We thank you for this Rotary Club and the many Rotary Clubs throughout our state, our country, and our world whose members work together to bring service above self to life and make a difference in our world. We pray for all who serve in a local, state, federal, or international position. Help us and them to remember that regardless of political parties, we are all your children and deserve to be heard and fairly represented as they do their jobs. While we are a diverse people, help us to remember that major division is often driven by fear of things we do not know or understand. Help us to get to know and understand those who may not look or sound like us, whose life experiences are vastly different from ours, who face different daily challenges in their lives than those that we may face. Help us to remember we are all your children. Show us how to work and live together in ways that bring peace to our world. In all we say, think, and do, may we bring honor to you. Amen.
Thank you very much, Raylene. That was very well said. So first of all, man, it is good to be back in person. I enjoyed seeing everybody's faces the last few weeks on the computer screen, but it is great to see everybody in person and fill this room up today. So thank you for doing that and coming back in force. We do have a lot of visitors today, so I would like to take a minute to introduce everybody, our visitors and guests, some that are interested in joining Rotary, some that are visiting from other Rotary clubs, and then many of our local leaders as well. So I'd like to take a second and introduce everybody, so please stand when I call your name. From the city of LaGrange, we have Jim Arrington, council member. Major Jackson. Is Mark?
He couldn't make it.
Okay. I got Meg Kelsey with City of LaGrange, city manager. And Tim Ball, the assistant city manager. Jeff Todd, our city attorney. John Grant, our fire chief. Katie Van Shore, marketing communication manager. James Van Shore. Philip Sledge with LaGrange TV. Alex Keys and Alton West. We also have some guests. Rhett Parton with the Georgia Hospital Association. Zach Britt with Colony Bank. Sandy Lee with the Marriott. Patty Harrelson. I saw Michelle Gordon as well. Patrick Cruz with Troup County Board of Commissioners. Lee Newman. And then guest Mark Foster, guest of Jake Jones Smith, visiting Rotary. And Doopy Sears. So we're glad y'all are here. Glad this room is full. It's good to have everybody back in person. We do have a couple of announcements and a few pieces of business just to get to. First of all, we have some birthdays and anniversaries to announce. Member birthdays, February 17th, Patty Youngblood, and February 21st, Jake Jones. Both have birthdays this month, or this week. Member anniversaries, Lee Cathy celebrates 23 years on the 17th tomorrow, so congratulations, Lee. And then we have some wedding anniversaries. Mike and Jane Angstadt are celebrating 34 years on the 20th. And Molly and Jeff Fulgham celebrating 33 years on the 18th. So congratulations to everybody for those anniversaries and birthdays. And just a couple of quick announcements. First of all, please silence your cell phones today to be respectful to our speaker. The Rotary Golf Tournament is scheduled to take place on April 14th here at the Country Club. Start thinking about sponsorships for holes or teams for your business. And if you see somebody from the Rotary Club calling you, answer that phone because they're going to ask you to help. So we want to have a full field of teams and sponsors. So we'd love to have that filled up with Rotarians as well. After this meeting, we will have a monthly board meeting. So board members will meet right next door, and it's a chance for a makeup opportunity as well. So anybody that wants to come after can do so. Happy dollars. We got a couple of seconds for a few happy dollars. If anybody has anything.
Real quick, our healthcare organization, student organization, is hosting a blood drive today with the Red Cross today. So after you've done eating, be really good, ready to get your jab. So stop by Lincoln Academy and donate today.
Sure, I'd like to see a full room. And we missed a guest. I'm happy to introduce y'all Dave Mara, who is the new general manager of Highland Country Club. And
Got 5 happy dollars to be back in person. Also, Crew of Mask is going to be parading on Friday, so we have our Mardi Gras celebration. The balloons going into the pot too. Saturday, 7 o'clock, we launch at Sweetland. We go down to the theater, make a right, come up in front of the Marriott, and if you want to double the loop, bring a bag, because you're going to catch a lot of stuff.
And I have $1. Last fall, the Visit LaGrange Center opened. Kathy Tilley's in charge. And the freebie they gave out were socks featuring their mayor and his wife and dogs. So I'm happy to know, as far as I know, he's the only Rotarian to ever have his face on a sock.
We have a busy spring as always. Starting next weekend, not this weekend when you're going to be at the parade, the following weekend, we have a ballet, Snow White, and classical favorites. This will be something ideal, especially if you have little kids. The first act is Snow White, so if they aren't able to stay for a long time, they can leave after that, and then there's some more classical favorites afterwards. And the following weekend, we have the 25th anniversary of the Azalea Storytelling Festival. We're excited about that and hope everyone will join us at Callaway Auditorium. That's where we should be this year. So we're excited about that and hope to see you there.
Thank y'all very much. That was great. There's a lot going on that we can be proud of. Now I'll turn it over to Jake Jones to introduce our guests.
Thank you, President Jason. It is a great pleasure to introduce to you our friend, Jim Thornton. Jim Thornton is the 42nd mayor of LaGrange, first elected in 2013. He was re-elected for a second term in 2017 and a third term in 2021. Prior to his election to mayor, Jim served one term on the LaGrange City Council. Jim currently serves as the president of the Georgia Municipal Association, the principal advocacy organization that represents all 537 cities in Georgia. Jim was born in LaGrange, graduated from LaGrange High School, LaGrange College, and Emory University School of Law. He practices in LaGrange and is a partner with the law firm of Thornton and Graham, PC, specializing in real estate transactions, estate planning, and corporate law. Because of his dedication to the city, I bet his law partner often feels she runs a sole proprietorship. Mayor Thornton is a lifelong member of the First United Methodist Church and currently serves as Chancellor of the North Georgia Conference of the United Methodist Church. As we all know, Jim is a tremendous asset to our region, but a few things you may not know. Jim loves getting away to Cape San Blas. He loves good cold raw oysters. He loves his family very much and the enjoyment of an afternoon sunset and a cocktail by the lake. Jim is married to the former Corin Blanco, and they have more dogs than I could name. Please join me in welcoming our mayor, Jim Thornton.
Thank you, Jake, and thank you to the LaGrange Rotary Club for once again asking me to come and share a few thoughts on the state of our city. It's great to be back with you in person. I'm delighted that this is the first opportunity you've had to come back after a short period of time, but hope that this is a harbinger of things to come, that we'll be able to continue meeting in person and that we can start to put the COVID pandemic in our rearview mirror. I also appreciate those who are joining us on LGTV. As you know, as was mentioned earlier, we do have the LGTV staff here, and delighted that they're able to stream this live on the LGTV Facebook page. I have enjoyed serving as your mayor. It has been one of the highlights of my life. I have enjoyed the first 2 terms, and I was honored last year when the residents of LaGrange elected me without opposition, which is a preferable way to do it, without opposition to a 3rd term. And I'm looking forward to serving the next 4 years in this capacity. It is a pleasure for me to serve with the members of the LaGrange City Council. We refer to the governing authority of the city of LaGrange as the mayor and council. And it really is it's a great group of 7 or 6 now, but normally 7 individuals who are elected to serve as the eyes, ears, and decision makers for the citizens of LaGrange. And I'm delighted to have 2 members of the city council here today. As you mentioned, Councilman Jim Arrington and Councilman Nathan Gaskin. Consider them friends and enjoy serving with them. I would be remiss if I didn't make a note of the fact that we do have 1 man missing at the present time. LaGree McCamey had served as a city council member in LaGrange for 14 years. He was in the middle of his 4th term as a council member, and he unexpectedly died a few weeks ago. That position is vacant now and will most likely be filled at a special election to be held in the fall. But certainly LaGree was a great friend to many of us down at City Hall and a great advocate for the city of LaGrange, and he is already being missed. I would, on a happier note, say that I'm delighted to see my counterpart at the county here with us today, Chairman Patrick Cruz. I've served as mayor for 8 years, and he served as county chairman for 7 of those 8 years. And I joke with people and say it's hardly a day goes by that Patrick and I don't talk by telephone or in person. And sometimes we talk 3 or 4 times a day. But it's so critical to our community that the city and the county have a great working relationship, because so many of the things that we do require partnerships, not just between the city and the county, other partners at the table, the Chamber of Commerce, the business community, the various authorities, development authorities in the city. But certainly the relationship between the city and the county is critical, and I appreciate Patrick's friendship and the close working relationship we have. Several members of the city staff were introduced to you as guests today. I'm not going to go back through all of those, but I would single out our city manager. Meg Kelsey has been serving as city manager of LaGrange now for over 5 years. She celebrated her 5th anniversary in that position last summer. She's been with the city, however, for over 25 years. So she's been a fixture down at City Hall for a long time, is doing an amazing job as our city manager, leading a great staff. Meg has a very difficult job because she has 7 bosses, the mayor and council, and then she has 500 employees because everybody at the city works for her. She's the only person who reports to the mayor and council. Everybody else reports to her, but she's doing a fabulous job and has assembled a great team down at City Hall. I think you all have on your table a mayor's update, and this is also going to be available online on the city's website. I'm not going to go through this page by page today. It would take too long to do so, but I do commend it to you. And I want to thank our city manager, Meg Kelsey, and our communication staff led by Katie Van Schuer for having put together this great document. And it encapsulates a lot of the things that are happening in our community. We've been doing this for several years, and for the past few years, the mayor's update has run to 16 pages. And this year it ran to 20. And that's not because I'm just verbose or we included extraneous material. It's because there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of good, positive stuff going on. I commend that to you. Let me tell you that today is an opportunity for me to reflect upon the state of our city. And I will tell you that the state of our city is strong, and it's healthy, and it's getting better. Rather than focus on the current status, I think, which is just a snapshot in time, I think it's more helpful to reflect upon the direction that the city's moving. And I want to talk about that today. I want to talk about the fact that as a city, we are growing, we are thriving, and we are improving. And I want to talk about that in a little bit of detail with you, and I'll focus on some of the things that also appear in the mayor's update. I was reminded of the lyric from the Beatles song. I've got to admit it's getting better, a little better all the time. I think about LaGrange in that capacity. LaGrange is not perfect. No place is perfect. But I think if you look at some of the developments that have occurred, are currently underway, and are projected into the future, you will see that by any objective standard, we're getting a little bit better, and we're getting a little bit better all the time. That has been my mantra. Focus on the rate of change. Are we getting better? Are we getting worse? And I believe that we are definitely heading in a positive direction. I want to tell you about a few things that are happening, and then I'll try to save some question time at the end. First, I want to talk about growth. There are lots of jobs in this community. There are more jobs than there are people. That is why we have vacancies that I'll talk about in a minute. It's also why we have people commuting into LaGrange every day for jobs. We are blessed and fortunate to have that current status of our economy. We also are surrounded by communities that are growing. Whether you go to the north to Noonan, the south to Columbus, the west to Auburn, Opelika, we have lots of growth around us. It seems like growth happens in fits and starts. You'll have a period of a lot of activity, and then you'll have a period where things seem to slow down, and then it gets active again. And we certainly have seen that over the past 8 years that I served as mayor. COVID was an unusual occurrence in that fits and starts pattern. And it slowed a lot of projects down. There were a lot of things that were underway that we were anticipating that have been postponed. We're starting to see some of that come out of the ground now. But what I would tell you is that I believe the growth that we are experiencing now is sustainable. And it's sustainable because of the underlying economic factors that are driving that growth. Our former city manager, Tom Hall, used to often say that you can't manufacture demand. That you can't artificially create demand for a product or a development. You don't have to manufacture it in LaGrange anymore. It's here. The demand is there. People are calling out for additional growth, and the jobs and the economic factors are there to sustain it. I also think there's some intangibles that we have learned from COVID. We learned from COVID and the past 2 years' experience that there is a value to living in places like LaGrange. There is a value to living in small towns. There's a value to living in communities that have maintained their own identity and that have quality of life resources. During the COVID shutdown across the world, really, I think people realized that you can find everything you really need in LaGrange. We're large enough to have everything you really need. But we also have maintained a small town feel that enables us to have our own identity that's not lost inside of a larger metropolitan region. And I think people value that. Certainly, it has resulted, along with the jobs and the economic factors, in an increased demand for housing.
That demand for housing is existing in other communities as well, but certainly in LaGrange, we have seen that. But that includes single-family and multifamily housing. The city is responding to that need. We're responding in a couple of ways. We're responding to that demand through the development of our Unified Development Ordinance, which was passed unanimously by the City Council last year. That development ordinance was a product of over 2 years of work by our staff. It involved consultants. It involved a lot of input from our residents, including realtors, home builders, developers, historical advocates. But it was designed to do two things: to help facilitate this growth that we are experiencing, and also to maintain high standards as a community, to be able to maintain that small town quality of life that we all enjoy. That work is ongoing, and it's certainly, I think, going to be beneficial over the long term. We're also investing in our infrastructure. Last year, I signed, on behalf of you, the residents of LaGrange, I signed a $27 million bond resolution that the council unanimously approved to spend $27 million investing in upgrading our water and sewer capacity as a city. I joke with people sometimes that nobody would ever choose to be in the sewer business. It's not something anybody ever wants to invest in, but we're in it and we're making the best of it. But it's a constant, as you might imagine, maintenance obligation to maintain our water and sewer infrastructure, and it's expensive, but we also have the opportunity to start expanding that. And then as we bring new residents to our community, whether they are visitors or prospective residents, or whether they're people returning maybe who grew up in LaGrange and have lived away and want to return back to our community, we know that we want LaGrange to be seen as an attractive and a fun place to live. And so that's why we will continue to invest in some of those quality of life amenities that are showcased in the mayor's update. So cities, when you talk about quality of life amenities, for cities, that typically means public parks and green space, because cities can only invest in public resources. Cities can't invest in private resources. And this past year, we were able to negotiate with our friends at Troup County to take back control of the parks that are located in the city. That's for the first time in 20 plus years, the city is maintaining the city parks. The county will continue to maintain all of the recreation facilities. We see this as a great opportunity for the city to invest in renovating those existing parks, as well as expanding to add additional parks to our park system. And one of the aspects of that, of course, is the Thread. Many of you are familiar with the Thread. Many of you have been supporters of the Thread over the years. I'm delighted that we continue to add to the Thread system. We continue to add new loops and connections. That will continue. And for any of you looking for something to do, next Saturday, February 26th, I'd encourage you to sign up for the 5K or the 10K Thread Road Race. It's being sponsored by Emory. I'm looking forward to being a participant in the 10K. I don't expect to set the land speed record, but I do hope to finish. There are other great attributes to our community that we are blessed with. Certainly, we have a vibrant downtown. We appreciate Bill Honeycutt, as well as all the members of the Downtown Development Authority who continue to work to maintain our vibrant downtown. We have a great arts and music scene, and Raylene Carter knows that as well as anybody. We have some amazing amenities and Carrie Weiss through LSPA. We also have beautiful natural resources, such as West Point Lake. So we have just a great opportunity as a community to continue to attract people. And let me tell you, we need people. We need people, and I'm going to shift and talk about our local economy. The local economy is thriving. No matter who you talk to, whether it's a large business or a small business, they're busy, and most of them need people. Jobs are abundant in our community. Our businesses are diverse, and they are expanding. Governor Kemp and Governor Deal before him used to like to say that Georgia was the #1 state to do business in the nation. And I agree with them completely. But I think you're pretty hard pressed to find any place better than Troup County to do business, because the Troup County community has certainly been very, very good and conducive to lots of economic development over the course of the past decades. And this goes back to the days of Callaway Mills and comes forward to some of the modern manufacturers that are choosing to locate here. I decided, rather than asking you to take my word for it, that I'd reach out to a few of our local businesses and just see what are they experiencing and what are they predicting for the future. So I started with some of the larger businesses in the county and reached out to Stuart Countess, who of course is CEO of Kia Georgia. Stuart lives here in LaGrange and manages the factory just down the road in West Point. And Stuart told me that LaGrange and Troup County are going to continue to grow. He says, quote, "The future is bright with the additional new businesses coming to the area, as well as those who are growing their existing operations." But he did note that a challenge remains attracting more people to our area to fill open jobs. So I asked Stuart, I said, well, you're the largest employer in Troup County. You and your supplier base account for about 15,000 jobs in this immediate area. And I asked him what his plans were for the future. He said that in 2022, they plan to build 350,000 cars at the Kia plant in West Point. They have not built that many since 2017. So they are more than recovered from the COVID slowdown. He told me they just hired 200 employees, and they would like to hire, as of today, they'd like to hire another 150. So they are definitely in a hiring mode. I also reached out to Jason Ransbottom at Hyundai Transys, and he told me, quote, "Business is really strong for us right now, and the outlook is even stronger." But he echoed Stuart's comment that the struggle was finding people to fill the jobs. I talked to Charles Hudson Jr., who many of you know, former member of this club, and he owns 3 restaurants and a brewery in town, Seasons, Maresol, and Beacon. Charles told me that they had the best year they had ever had in 2021. That was both if you measured in total sales and if you measured average daily visits. He has also seen an increase in out-of-town visitors, and Beacon is currently renovating their facility to add additional space. But Charles also told me he needs more people. He needs more staff. I talked to Nikki Franklin, who is a relatively new business owner in LaGrange. Nikki owns Emberglow Handmade, which was located in a small one-door sort of retail space down on Bull Street beside Charlie Joseph's. She outgrew that space and recently moved into the renovated Colonial Hotel. And Nikki told me that business has been wonderful and the community super supportive. We've had our ups and downs during the pandemic, like many small businesses, but remain steady and creative in finding ways to keep moving forward. And her expectations are also for future growth. From the largest manufacturers to our downtown restaurants and retailers, the business community is thriving, and they all have high expectations for things to get even better. I mentioned that Charles Hudson said something about out-of-town visitors, and he tells me that he actually measures that in part by counting how many folks have Great Wolf wristbands and how many folks have wolf ears sitting in the restaurant. But he has definitely seen an increase in out-of-town visitor traffic. And that doesn't surprise me when I tell you how well Kathy Tilley and Carlton Wood and the team at Visit LaGrange are doing. I asked Kathy about tourism numbers, and I asked her to compare 2019, the year before the pandemic, to 2021. Admittedly, 2021 was not post-pandemic, but in 2021, all of our hoteliers were open, even if they weren't all at full capacity. So I'm comparing 2019 and 2021. I'm just kind of trying to forget about 2020, that COVID year. But in 2019, the hotels in LaGrange had an occupancy rate of 58%. In 2021, that increased to 65%. So a full 7 percentage point increase. Meanwhile, they weren't discounting their rooms to get that additional traffic. The average daily room rate in 2019 was $122. It went to $127 in 2021. Kathy shared with me that when Visit LaGrange was originally getting organized, they engaged some marketing experts to tell them what their goals should be for future growth. And at that time, they set a goal of being at 65% occupancy by 2026. They achieved that in 2021. We're already there. So they set a new goal. By the end of this year, they want to be, Sandy, they want to be at 68% occupancy by the end of this year. and 72% by the end of 2024. This, of course, is not only good for our local hotels, it's good for our restaurants, seeing the increased traffic. It's also good for the city, seeing increased hotel motel tax receipts, which offsets other general fund expenses. From 2019 to 2021, the average increase per hotel in hotel motel tax receipts was 24%. So we're seeing a tremendous growth in tax receipts as well. Kathy is pleased to say that that applies to every facility in LaGrange, not just the larger hotels. All of our hotels are seeing an increase in occupancy. So finally, I just wanted to talk about how we're going to continue to improve as a community. We're a growing community. We're thriving as a community. We have new businesses coming to town. We need to understand how we address the challenges that we have as a community, the challenges that inevitably come from growth. I will tell you that I always tell folks, they say, well, isn't growth going to bring problems? Yes, it's going to bring challenges. It's going to bring traffic. It's going to bring demands on our infrastructure. It's going to bring pressure on our public safety and our fire department and our police department. Appreciate the leadership that Chief Brandt provides at the fire department. Yes, it's going to create some challenges and some stresses on our system. But let me tell you something, it's a lot better than declining communities. I mean, people would trade places with us any day to have those challenges. And we as a city are committed to addressing those challenges. How we do that is by encouraging growth that is not radical or unsustainable, to encourage incremental growth, incremental progress that doesn't overburden our existing systems. Maybe I spent too much time as a child reading the fable of the tortoise and the hare. If some of you have seen me training for the upcoming Thread 10K, you know who I identify with in this fable. But the lesson I take from the fable is that slow and steady wins the race. And so that's the mantra that I and the City Council continue to share. We know that growth is coming. We know that we have to work to improve our services and our infrastructure. But we also know that we can't have unsustainable radical growth that overburdens the systems and just causes us to stymie as a community. So what we will continue to do is we will continue to listen to the community. We'll continue to take input from community members across the community. I think it's important that we don't always just listen to the loudest voices, but that we sometimes listen to the quiet voices, the folks who have a lot to share, but maybe aren't willing to come down to a city council meeting to share it with us. And so we look for opportunities to get out into the community, to share our story, to create forums that allow people to provide feedback to the mayor, the council, the staff. And then our challenge as a body, as the mayor and council with input from our staff, our challenge is to balance all of those competing needs. There are, according to the census, 31,000 people currently living in LaGrange. I think we were undercounted. And there's, I'd be glad offline to talk about why I think we were undercounted, but I think we're probably a couple of thousand more than that, but that's what the census data shows. You obviously can't make all 31,000 people in the city happy, but you can balance those competing needs to make sure that that no part of the community is neglected, and that's something that the mayor and the council have been committed to. And then when we see an opportunity to solve a problem, when we see an opportunity to address an issue, whether it's an infrastructure issue or a utility issue or a public safety issue, when we see an opportunity, it's our obligation as the governing authority to make a strategic investment and to say this is important enough that we need to invest resources in trying to solve that problem. And one of the things that many of you you've been listening as Rotary Club, you've been listening to the State of the City speeches from Mayor Lucan for years, and now me for 8 years. You know that the city of LaGrange runs like a business, and we are a big business, a utility company at some level. But we always look for the return on our investments. I mean, when we make an investment, we want to make sure it's an appropriate investment that actually solves a problem and we want to see that it generates a return for you, our residents. We'll continue to do that. I ask that you help us. You can help us by being part of the solution, help us by when you do identify a stress on the system, when you do identify something that we haven't addressed or maybe need to address in a different way, but you feel free to share that. I always ask folks to share it with our city staff first, because when the staff has an opportunity to address a problem, they can study it from 6 different ways and look at the best solutions, and then they make a recommendation to the mayor and council, and we always give those recommendations deference. The mayor, the council and I are committed to making sure that public safety remains a priority for our community, and that's why we continue to invest in our fire department, continue to invest in our police department. Those are 2 of the largest items in our budget, and they are growing, and we are increasing those level of investments every year, because as a growing community, we want to stay ahead of the curve and make sure that we have the best quality police and fire services that we can provide. We also want to stay in our wheelhouse. And what I mean by that is the city of LaGrange, I mentioned, is a utility company. There are some things that the city does well. The city is, I think it's second to none at providing police and fire services. We have highly accredited police and fire departments that are in the top 1% of police and fire departments in the nation, and we enjoy a high ISO rating, and we have well-recognized services across the state, across the nation. We also have high-quality utilities, because the city is very good at providing electricity and gas and water and sewer, roads. So we want to stay in our wheelhouse, because those are the things that we do and we do well. And then we look for opportunities to support others in doing the things that they do well. So, for example, the city of LaGrange hasn't operated a school system since 1993, but we can support our school system. And so we look for opportunities to work with our Board of Education, to work with our county commissioners, to try to support the work that they are doing. And one example of that is currently we are under development to run a water line to Rosemont School. And that's a $2 million project to give water to Rosemont School. Rosemont School needs water currently, and then they're planning to build a new school, which is going to need even more water. And the county would like to see growth in that area of the community out by the interstate. So we're running this in partnership. We do a good job running water lines. We don't do a good job of operating schools. That's not what we do. But we can partner with the school system and the county and run water. Similarly, we work to support the business sector through providing high-quality infrastructure. The city of LaGrange doesn't build houses. The city of LaGrange doesn't own or operate restaurants. The city of LaGrange doesn't have any manufacturing facilities. But we can support the business community, and we can support those who do by some of the things I mentioned. I've already talked a lot about infrastructure and quality of life. Just one thing to close with is to say the way we like to operate down at the city is when we see a problem, we try to get our staff to look at it and see what can we do to address it, and then to make that investment in that, in solving that problem. And one recent example of that is on the police side of the house. So we noticed in 2021 that while overall crime was down considerably, there had been an increase in violent crime. And so we didn't go to the, no offense, Cheyenne, we didn't go to the newspapers and talk about, oh, the sky's falling, whatever. Instead, we went to the police department and said, this is an issue. What can we do to address it? And Chief Detmar and his team came back and said, well, we could use some more police officers because we're growing as a community, and we could use some cameras, some tag reader cameras. And so the council invested in new police officers, new tag reader cameras, and we are really starting to see that it's amazing how much technology is aiding the police in solving crimes. So when we look at an issue, we study it, we try to figure out what's the best solution here, and we make those investments. Let me just close by thanking you for your time and attention, as always. My commitment and the commitment of our city council members remains to doing what we can to improve our city. It's a city that we all love and call home. We will continue to do what we can to make decisions that are in the best interest of the city as a whole, not one particular interest group or one particular neighborhood or one particular institution, but what makes sense for the city as a whole. we want to make those investments so that our city can continue for the foreseeable future to grow and to thrive and to keep getting better all the time. And I appreciate you allowing me to serve as your mayor, and I will stop and see if you have any questions.
We got a couple questions. Documented.
Yes, Kay.
There was a big lawsuit settlement announced yesterday with Remington and the Sandy Hook folks. Will that affect the Remington coming year?
It will not, and so, and this is corporate law technicality at some level, but the corporation that went bankrupt, and it was actually not the corporation that settled at Sandy Hook, it was the insurance companies that settled, but that corporation went through bankruptcy and then emerged from bankruptcy in 2020 or 2019, and it's the emergent company, Remington, that is actually planning to locate here. So no, there's no direct effect. Now, obviously, there is some there's some effect on the brand and some of that, but I mean, I think there's the people that the development party and the city have been dealing with are not the same. It's not the same corporation. It's not the same entity. So no, the answer is no. There will be no direct effect. Any other questions? Or yes,
Can you talk a little bit about the Newman property? I know it's in the mayor's update highlight.
Yeah, so the Newman property, which is about 800 acres or so on Moody Bridge Road, has been acquired by a development firm out of Utah, the Morley family, and they have an initial phase 1 plan to do some development on the southern end of that tract, and then over time it will develop out. That's one example of housing developments. I could, if you got a big map of the city, I can point you to housing developments that are under development at the corner of Hogansville Road and Davis Road, the Newman property, some of the apartment developments out on the Bypass Road. And there's things happening all around the city. I think that's going to continue. I know that the developer is eager to get going with that Newman development, but I don't have a time frame for you. And the downtown apartments as well, which I know you're involved with also. So there's things happening all around the community from the housing standpoint. Okay, well, thank y'all as always for hosting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You make us very proud of what you and your team are doing when you're working with the council as well as the commissioners. Appreciate everything you're doing to make us all look good. I'm very proud to be raising my family here, and a lot of that has to do with everything that you just talked about. So I appreciate that. Thank you for giving us an update. In honor of you speaking today, we're going to be making a donation to Polio Plus, which is Ritter's initiative to rid the world of polio. So thank you for that. Our next program next Wednesday will feature Dr. Julie Post to give us an update of what's going on at West Georgia Tech. So thanks for being here. Thanks for coming out in force. We are adjourned.